They found her alive, but the questions never stopped. Why didn't she run? Why didn't she scream? Why didn't she escape when people were right there? Before you answer those questions, subscribe to the channel, because this story will completely change how you understand survival. Join me as I dive into a case the world thinks it already understands, yet one that has been misunderstood for years. This is the reason Elizabeth Smart is finally breaking her silence, and why her new Netflix documentary is forcing people to confront an uncomfortable truth. Elizabeth Smart was just 14 years old when her life was taken from her bedroom in the middle of the night. In an instant, safety disappeared and a new reality began, one built on fear, isolation, and control. While the nation searched desperately for her, Elizabeth was learning how to survive a situation where every move carried consequences. For months, she lived under constant psychological pressure. Not just fear of what could happen, but fear of what would happen if she tried to resist. Her captors didn't just control where she went. They controlled what she believed would happen if she disobeyed. Escape wasn't presented as freedom. It was presented as danger. This is a part of the story many people struggle to understand. Elizabeth was seen in public. She was around others. And yet, she didn't ask for help. For years, that fact alone led to judgment, doubt, and cruel assumptions. In her documentary, Elizabeth explained something that rarely makes headlines. Survival doesn't always look brave. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it looks like obedience. And sometimes it looks like staying alive by doing exactly what you're told. She describes how fear was used as a weapon, how she was convinced that running would only lead to worse outcomes, how threats didn't need to be repeated to be believed. Over time, the mind adapts, not because it wants to, but because it has to. When Elizabeth was finally found alive, the world celebrated. To many, it felt like the ending everyone had hoped for. But for Elizabeth, it wasn't the end at all. It was the beginning of learning how to live again, while carrying trauma the world didn't fully understand. Instead of being met with compassion, she was often met with questions she never should have had to answer. Questions that placed responsibility on her instead of on those who harmed her. The shame, the guilt, and the pressure to move on became a second ordeal, one that followed her long after she returned home. So why speak now? In her Netflix documentary, Elizabeth makes it clear. She's not reopening this chapter for attention. She's doing it because the same harmful misunderstandings still exist today. Survivors are still doubted, still blamed, still asked why they didn't fight harder, scream louder, or escape sooner. By telling her story in her own words, Elizabeth is taking back control of the narrative. She's showing the world that trauma doesn't follow logic, and survival doesn't follow rules. What kept her alive then is the very thing people question later. Today, Elizabeth Smart is no longer defined by what was done to her. She's an advocate, a voice for survivors, and someone determined to make sure others aren't silenced by misunderstanding. Her story isn't just about the past. It's a warning, a lesson, and a challenge to how we listen when someone says they survived. And if this story made you stop and rethink everything you thought you knew, subscribe to the channel. Because this is exactly what we do here. Go beyond the headlines and uncover the truths most people overlook. Because some stories aren't meant to shock you. They're meant to wake you up.